across the road.
And welcome to our Morning Throners podcast. I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Glow.
And I'm Kyle.
And we're the fucking Morning Throners.
And welcome back to another episode of your favorite Song of Ice and Fire podcast. We're the Morning Throners. We're on Clash of Kings. Tyrion won. Nelson's favorite character. He's definitely up there for me. Kyle,
sure.
What did you think about this episode?
So it was good. I mean, it kind of gave a little more dynamic of the Lannister household there, you know,
For sure.
because they are, at least outwardly, they're very protective of each other. It seems like, at the very least, their name.
Right.
But so to see them kind of at odds was fun, and
I'd say it's one of the longer dialogues we get with Cersei.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. You get a little more her insight into her.
Just in general, how long is this chapter? Since I've been reading them, because since I take notes on my iPad, I read on my iPad.
53 to 60.
Yeah, I was going to say it was like 10 pages-ish for me.
53 to 69.
It wasn't huge. It was
But
longer.
it was longer. That's longer than
Yeah,
most.
but it wasn't huge.
Longer than most, but it was a pretty
other
quick read.
chapters in this book.
Entertaining read for sure. I thought it was a good chapter.
Yeah, Kyle, do you have anything else to say, or are we getting into it?
What I was going to say is, I mean, it's also a little. I think Littlefinger and Varys are probably and obviously I think they're supposed to be as well, but they're like the two most interesting characters that we don't get points of view from, at least yet. To kind of learn a little bit more about them and how people feel about them, and I'm interested to see, because Tyrion's obviously super pissed off by Littlefinger, so I'm interested to see. He's going to do the same thing Ned did, kind of, where he's going to try and figure some shit out, I think. So.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, Glow, bring us in. How do we start this deal?
We start off with Tyrion walking up to the council chamber with Sir Mendon Moore, I believe, standing guard, and he is with Timett Timett and Bronn.
Tyrion is with them. Yep.
Yep. Nice. So we get a little bit more on Mendon Moore. I think he was mentioned, I don't know, with Sansa chapter maybe when she talked about the other Kingsguard. I think that's when it was, and I don't think he was one that they really went too far into. So we do learn a little bit more about him. He's just kind of an emotionless dude. Is this the guy that was like, that was Meryn Tran, right?
Yeah,
Meryn Tran was just like a yes man, right?
In the last Sansa chapter, she describes like how they've treated her, and Mendon Moore, she says he has strange dead eyes, is how he describes him. And then Jaime has given Tyrion a description of Mendon before that Tyrion thinks of in this chapter, saying that Mendon was the most dangerous of the Kingsguard besides Jaime himself because his face gave no hint as to what he would do next. So then Sansa says he has strange dead eyes. So
Emotionless man.
Yeah. So he's just kind of, he's basically reminds me of the people in Great Britain. I don't know what they're called.
Gotcha. The
they just don't
palace
move.
guards or whatever.
Yeah,
The
they just
Royal
don't
Guard.
move at all. The Royal Guard, is that who
Palace
they are?
guards.
Yeah.
Palace guards or royal guards or whatever, yeah.
They
With the guys with the funny hats and the red jackets, yeah.
Yeah. And you can like, I don't know if you can actually like go around and mess with them and they don't move, or if they like actually fuck you up and then go back to standing still.
Yeah, I don't know what to do.
I've definitely seen videos of them like pushing people away, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you can get in their face. But
I think you have to go pretty far to do that, for them to do that.
I saw another thing. We're getting a little off topic early, but I saw another thing that they have something like that for the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. There's like guards for that, and that's like those guards take that shit super serious too. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
That
the
shit's
Tomb
awesome.
The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier guards are like just like Google that. Anybody who's listening wants to just like check that out on YouTube. Watch like a 10-minute video. Those guys are fucking hardcore.
No, take a trip to Arlington and, dude, if you
Have
go
you
to
been there?
DC, oh yeah, I mean, this is so it's sad to say, it's one of the most beautiful places ever, but it's such a sad reason for it being there. But Arlington Cemetery is breathtaking.
Yeah,
and the Tomb of Unknown Soldiers is an awesome.
Did you see like the soldier guards like march and shit?
Yeah. I was so lucky.
And they make you be like dead silent and shit. And if anybody talks, they'll fucking immediately stop their shit and be like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. I was so lucky to see the changing of the guards happen.
That's awesome.
Really?
Yeah, it was
Oh my
like
God.
perfect timing.
Yeah.
But it's one of the most bittersweet places. I mean, it's just a huge cemetery, right? But it really puts your life into perspective. So
yeah.
So Tyrion,
we're gonna jump back in.
Tyrion walks up to Mandon Moore, and he really just tries to do the Tyrion thing, right? Like, I'm smarter than you. Like, let me in. I have this paper from my dad. And Mandon Moore's like, no. Queen said no. You're not coming in.
She said nobody. And she didn't specific. I don't think she was saying that to him, though, right?
Yeah, just like, no one come in.
Nobody,
like, do not disturb
a
me
blanket,
while I'm
no
in here.
one. Yeah.
So we found out Tywin didn't send notice that he was coming. So no
Correct.
ravens came.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if, like, pretty much Tyrion brings up, like, well, Bronn and Timett could probably take him 2v1. Maybe that kind of crossed Mandon's mind, or maybe he was
Tyrion's
like, all
pretty
right,
sure
it's
they could.
Tyrion. Like,
Tyrion's pretty sure they could, but he's like, that wouldn't be a good way to start my first day here. I shouldn't kill a Kingsguard. There's only like 7 of these guys, like having my men just slay him because I want to get into a council room is not a good way to start my entrance here. That's like a fucking Joffrey thing to do, right? So he's like, I got to figure something else out. I got to use my wits.
I thought it was more of defense. Like if it came to that, he was like, I think I'm still all right. Like I don't think he was. I think he was more worried about what Mandon was.
I mean, the way he gets in is through threatening.
Pretty much, yeah. But I mean, I think that was like he's like,
which is an offensive tactic, not a defensive tactic.
No, I just meant like they could likely take him if it came to that. Is what he's saying, but that would be awful. I don't know. I thought he meant because it was right after he explained how Mandon Moore.
But then
like,
the next thing that he does is he gives Mandon Moore that option. He's like, well, like again, he doesn't straight out say like I'll fucking fight you. He plays the Tyrion game and he's like, do you remember Sir Vardis? Do you know who Sir Vardis Egan is? And he's like, oh yeah, I know him. And Bronn's like, knew him.
Yeah.
And Mandon just like pretends like he didn't hear that. And he's like, either way, I need to get through. Right. Then it says he's about to force his way past. Right. So that's what my notes say.
Yeah. No. He like kind of thinks about it. Like I don't know if he actually does. And when he's like, all right, I'm just going to go walk in.
I mean, the Sir Vardis Egan thing is a veiled threat. Like later in the chapter, he's like talking about veiled threats with Varys, right? That's 100% a veiled threat. This is just like, and then Mandon steps aside before he does anything. And then, he goes in. Who's everybody we got in here? Kyle?
Well, it's the council, right? Five members here. So it's Cersei, Varys, Littlefinger, Aemon's probably there. Or no, Pycelle.
Pycelle.
Aemon's at up north.
The wall. Yep.
Yeah, I get them all mixed up.
All good.
And Janos Slint.
Yep.
Yeah,
Janos
good
Slint.
job, Cal.
Interesting thing. Cersei, how does Cersei greet Tyrion?
You.
How does Joffrey greet Tyrion?
You.
The exact same way. Right? They come up and Sansa's like, oh my lord. And Joffrey's like, you. And Cersei says the exact same thing. And then what does Tyrion say back? He's like, oh, I see where Joffrey knows courtesies. like that whole, like, that's what that's what that means,
and that was like back to back, right? In real time.
Exactly, back to back chapters, yeah. And to Tyrion too, right?
It's definitely cool. And the apple doesn't fall
Again, for us, that's a week apart, but a lot of people read those back to back. Probably most people caught that. I get that. We might not have because we read it a week apart. Actually, 2 weeks apart because we actually read that. We actually read the Hedge Knight in between this, so it's been 2 weeks, but yep. Lifting the curtain there a little bit. Go ahead.
Comes in, he kind of scans the room, and he comes across Littlefinger, and what's going
His
on
first
with
thoughts
them two?
are of the Valyrian steel dagger with the the bone hilt.
Give us a little background on that dagger real quick.
And that's the same dagger that was sent to kill Bran and that Miss Catelyn kept as evidence against Tyrion, and that's why she arrested him. Oh, my name is Catelyn Stark, and he tried to kill my son. That's how all that bullshit happened.
We skipped the whole part here where he announces the letter goes, and he announces he's going to be the hand, or it's announced that he is a hand.
Yep, exactly. Which Tywin didn't say in the first book. Like in that meeting with Tyrion, I brought it up in the spoiler section because I know that when he comes here, he says I'm the hand, and obviously that's what it says in this letter. But I thought it weird that like in that last book, he said like you're gonna go and lead in King's Landing, but he doesn't say like you're gonna be the hand of the king. Like I'm not gonna give you my exact role. Tywin doesn't say anything like that in that last Tyrion chapter, which I thought weird. But here, obviously, I mean that was obviously the intent. So he becomes hand. Varys picks it up. He's like, oh, this is obviously like from your father, and starts like, no shit, give it to me. She picks it up, and reads it, and throughout the chapter she just like keeps like reading it and is like, what the fuck, and like she's like, oh my god, how the fuck can this be true? How the fuck can this be true? Like, did you
how many
this?
times?
Like, blah, blah.
How many times could she have mentioned that I asked for father, not for you? Like, yeah, no shit. And to Tyrion's point, like, he's fighting your battles right now.
Yeah,
like,
but she wanted him there to fight that battle. Like, she wanted defense.
Also, I think interesting, how does everyone react as soon as they find out about this letter?
I mean, I feel like no one's really surprised.
Everyone immediately super nice to Tyrion.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, at least
because he's on Tywin's behalf. I
mean, like Varys wasn't like, no one was super a dick to him before except for Cersei, right? No one really said anything before, but like as soon as they find out he's the new hand, everyone's like, "Well, welcome, Lord Tyrion. Oh, yeah, you're cool. Like, you're the man. Welcome."
And I think,
right, no one ever treats Tyrion like that, and now he's like, "Oh, I'm the fucking."
it's
He's
true.
pretty much the guy in command
here
now, and everyone's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, welcome!" Like Pycelle's like, "Welcome," right? I don't even know exactly. What
No, Janos Slint like immediately is like, welcome. Like he's like, oh, or maybe Pycelle's like, oh, welcome to Norder, and like Janos Slint like hops on it, like, yeah, like let me start kissing your ass too, which is funny. I feel like Tyrion really just wants to be a part of the game. We don't talk about the game a whole lot, but like we get it more with Varys later on, but like. We know he's got some shit going on with Littlefinger. He's playing a little game with Varys later on. But he likes to play the game for sure. But
I mean, that's been his go-to the whole time here.
Yep. So the one big note I had here was that he tells somebody to prepare where his men should go, and he tells them like get to the Tower of Hand. You're like, whoa, is that where you want to stay? Like the Tower of the Hand?
I think we're skipping around a little bit. So first, I think right after the welcome, as part of the welcome, Janice was like, "Oh, we need you. Like, you're gonna be so useful in the city. There's like so many problems in the city, and one of those problems you mentioned is the streets. Like, there's like riots in the streets, right? And that's like the police commissioner being like, "Oh, there's like crime everywhere," and Cersei jumps on. And is like, "Well, that's your fucking problem. Like, what the fuck are you doing?" Like, Cersei's reading this letter.
Cersei doesn't hold back any punches as a woman in this world,
and she's pissed. Like, she's obviously pissed right now, right? Yeah. Like that she just read this letter, and she's like, "Well, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, whose fault is that, Lord Janos?"
Well, and then she tells Tyrion that he'd be better in battle, which is like the stupidest thing. Which
100% means you'd be better dead. That's how I took it.
Like, just go off the war to die. Go off the war to die for 100%.
Sure. Yeah, like it's not a nice thing.
Then he talks about how bullshit battle, like the war isn't as beautiful as everybody thinks, and then that's when Littlefinger is like trying to be friends with him too. Man after my own heart, you know.
So I like this little thing. So Tyrion says as
it's laughed, one of the best lines he said for sure.
It says he laughed. "No, I'm done with the fields of battle. Thank you. I sit a chair better than a horse, and I'd sooner hold a wine goblet than a battle axe. All about the thunder of drums, the sunlight on flashing armor, magnificent destriers snorting and prancing. Well, the drums gave me headaches. The sunlight flashing on armor cooked me up like a harvest day goose. And those magnificent destriers, shit everywhere. Not that I'm complaining. Compared to the hospitality I enjoyed in the Vale of Arryn, drums, horse shit, and fly bites are my favorite things." And this is where Littlefinger jumps on that, right? Littlefinger's like, "Oh yeah, fuck."
Well said, Lannister. Man after
my own heart. Again, so now we know Littlefinger has history with like Cat and Lysa, right? We heard the story at the end of the Cat chapter at Game of, or one of the last chapters of Game of Thrones. He was like kissing both Lysa and Cat in the courtyard, like when they were, or not the courtyard, the fucking Godswood.
And then now that's when he's like, "Yeah, but fuck you." He doesn't say it, but he's like, "Yeah, fuck you, Littlefinger."
Yeah,
like,
so this is what Jeff brought up earlier. This is when he thinks of the dagger. He's like, "Yeah, I mean, now
yeah, he's
remember
like,
how I got that whole
funny.
situation." Yeah. So Cersei's like, "How many men did you bring?" Because again, so this question obviously stems from the last Tyrion chapter where Tywin's like, "Yeah, your sister has wrote to us demanding that I come back with an army." So she's like, "Okay."
She's scared of Stannis and Renly.
Stanley.
Stanley, I like that.
And she's like, "How many men did you bring?" Thinking that, okay, maybe instead of Tywin coming, he sent Tyrion, but like at least half the army will be with him or something. Nope. Tyrion's like, just my own people, just my own guys.
And you're going to fucking hate them.
You're not going to like them. Yeah, they're not the same people you hang out with.
Yeah.
He's like, "What?" She's like, "What good are your men going to be? What good are a few hundred of your men going to be if there's an attack?" Like from what Kyle was saying, Stanley or Renless. And she asked for. She's like, I asked for an army, and you sent me a dwarf. And she says that the king council are the only ones allowed to name a hand, and they named Tywin, and he's like, and Tywin named me. And Cersei's like, he's not allowed to do that. Like, and Tyrion,
she's like, you can go talk to him in Harrenhal if you
Tyrion's
want.
like, he's at Harrenhal if you want to go talk to him, but until then, this letter's from him. Everyone knows it's true, and it says I'm hand, so suck it. Pretty much. And then they're like, this is when.
Why didn't she give him the Ned treatment and just tear it up?
This is when they kick everyone else out. Well, I think probably
because she knows she needs him. I think. Well, yeah,
it's also
and
Tywin.
It's the Tywin thing for sure.
Right. Sure.
No,
at some
from
point,
Daddy.
it'd come back to her. Yeah, it's from Daddy. She knows she can't get it over him, but she's also kind of like up shit's creek without a paddle right now. The city is like eating itself from inside out.
She's very concerned about.
She's scared. Yeah.
Stannis and Renly. Yeah.
So, so she asks everyone to leave. They start to go. Littlefinger's like, "Hey, can I tell the stewards to prepare chambers and Maegor's Holdfast?" Which I guess is where the royal family just lives.
I think that's like
that's just another part of the castle.
That's like the
inner
castle. So I
castle.
think like Red Keep's probably got outer walls. Then there's like an inner walls. Maybe the outer walls is where like they probably held Joffrey's tournament deal. Thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and he's like, "No, I'm going to Lord Stark's chambers. Like, give me the hand of the Tower of the Hand." And Pycelle's like, "Really? After the recent history?"
So yeah, so this is.
No, I think it's
Yeah.
Littlefinger, isn't it?
Or it's Littlefinger.
Littlefinger's like after the past two hands.
Yeah. So he's like, the last two don't frighten you? What happened to them? And he's like, last two? How about the last four? And then he really gives us the history on the last six.
Yeah, so he says, Aerys Targaryen's last hand was killed during the sack of King's Landing. Though I doubt he'd had time to settle into the tower. He had only been hand for a fortnight, so 2 weeks. The one before him was burned to death, and before them came two others who died landless and penniless in exile, and counted themselves lucky. I believe my Lord Father was the last hand to depart King's Landing with his name, properties, and parts all intact. So there's a lot in that little bit there, Kyle. There's a lot of history, but do you get anything from any of that?
Do you know who any of them are?
So, well, who was Aerys Targaryen's hand that was killed during the sack? Do we know him?
I'll tell you his name. His name was Rossart.
Yeah, I don't know him.
Rossart.
And then who got burned to death?
I literally hadn't heard this guy's name until I looked it up for this chapter, but his name is Lord Carlton Chestold.
Okay, and then
or something like that.
So I guess what I do get from that though is that if the last six died and his father was there before then.
No, so the last four died and his father was the fifth one. He was like,
okay.
If you go back, if you do him in a timeline, his dad
I got it. Yeah. So then the two before him were the other two.
Yeah. So those two, they were both exiled. Both exiled. They didn't die, but they were exiled. Again, this is all through Aerys' reign too, because Tywin was hand to Aerys. So Tywin basically left Aerys' service at some point somehow, and then
that's what I was wondering is how he did get out of there exactly.
Yeah, and there was a new hand who got exiled at some point, another hand who got exiled, another hand who got burned alive, and then another hand who got killed during the sack. So that's basically the history of Aerys' hands from Tywin on. If there was anything from before Tywin, we don't know. Tyrion.
So Tywin was the first one of that group. I thought he was like
the ones discussed here. We don't know if there's any before.
I thought he was right before Jon Arryn, but I guess that's not right.
No, that was the one.
Jon Arryn was Robert's first hand. Yeah. Okay. All right. So everyone leaves, and it becomes the Cersei Tyrion pissing match, which I enjoyed. I thought it was good banner back and forth.
I agree with that. And
just kind of Tyrion just low blow after low blow, pretty much saying what Tywin said she did wrong. There's some really good lines. Just low blows that Tywin pretty much told Tyrion. It's kind of like that little kid that you just hear like just spewing whatever their dad says. Like that's Tyrion at this point, and Cersei it's just a dagger in the rib, you know. So, what's the first one, though?
When they're alone, Cersei says that. Basically the Cersei's like, I hope you didn't come all this way to give us history lessons because you just spewed all that shit about the hands. And Tyrion, and Varys before they left, had said like, oh, I bet you yearn for your sister's sweet voice. So Tyrion jokes, she's like, no, I'm here for your sweet voice, sister. And Cersei's like, I want Varys' tongue to be pulled out, right?
Yeah. She's mad.
Yeah, and it's also because like that just also shows that both Cersei and Tyrion are on the same wavelength. Like, right, the Tyrion reference Varys making that quote about her voice, and Cersei obviously picked it up. Like, they're on the same wavelength here. She reads the letter. She keeps reading the letter again, getting more annoyed. She's like, "Why Tywin ignore my command?" And he's like, "He has an army. He can do whatever the fuck he wants."
He's the one in
like
charge
what would she really do? Like go meet him out in an open field battle?
And he's also
bring the gold cloaks.
But in this quote, right, Tyrion also suggests that
he's not the first.
Tywin's not the first one suggesting.
He said, nor is he the first.
Yeah.
What's he suggesting here?
I'm saying that's like Stannis and Renly. Like, hey, we said like come, and I guess Rob like come pledge fealty, and everyone's just like ignored her and continuing to be kings.
I think he's suggesting maybe, I don't know how he would know this, but I think maybe that Joffrey was the one who killed Ned, right? We find that out later in this chapter from Cersei that like she did not want Ned dead, right? That's Joffrey ignoring her command. Kind of like Tywin's doing now. I don't know. I think maybe that's
how
I mean
too.
Renly and Stannis have done it too. You know, they all have.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone's
that's a good point too, Jeff.
Letters.
So she's like, I don't need your help. Get out of here. And he's like, but I came all this way and Father commanded me to be here.
Well, she's like, I could throw you in the dungeons. And Tyrion realizes that that's actually true. Like, yes, you actually probably could throw me in the dungeons. I kind of have to be a little bit careful here.
But then he also says like because she says,
so he starts like being a little bit nice.
No, she said nobody will ignore that she throws him in the dungeon.
Oh and he points out.
And he's like, nobody, especially Dad,
either,
except for Ty. Yeah. He
the one with the army, like
the first big point is like he just comes out like I'm not the brother you want here.
She
Jaime.
says I commanded Tywin to come, and he says, but it's Jaime you want. and
she's just like, are you fucking kidding me? Gives him the death stare.
And he says, Jaime's my brother as much as yours, pretty much. And he's like, I'll help you. Help you as long as you like don't fuck me over here. I'll help you get Jaime back. And I know that's what you want.
I'll get him back unharmed. And she's like, how?
She's like, they're not gonna forget that what we did to like their fucking leader. How are we fucking gonna get Jaime back? And he's like, don't we have still two of their daughters? And this is where Cersei has to admit we don't.
We kind of forgot about Arya.
Well, she says, I've been telling everyone that we have them both, obviously, because I need to say that. I can't tell everyone we lost her, but it's going to come out eventually. And she's like, we don't have her. We have Sansa, though. Mm-hmm. Tyrion doesn't love that, but he's like, we'll be okay.
We'll figure something out.
Doesn't seem too worried about it.
And then we get down to the list of the new council members, and Tyrion's like, oh, your friend's here. And just kind of one by one, like, not who left, but like how they became part of the council, and then like who one person left. So
he also says that some of the suspicion of them comes from Tywin himself, because in the last Tyrion chapter, Tywin's like, Tyrion, a lot of the stuff Tyrion brings up here, like the dismissing of Barristan, I think the killing of Ned, those are things that Tywin literally said like, I don't trust anyone on the council. Go figure out who the fuck was behind some of this shit. And those are the questions.
There's a bunch of bad moves.
Yeah, and those are the questions that Tyrion leads off with here, right? So Cersei says that she doesn't really trust them, but she needs people. She can't do everything herself. So, and she's like, does Tywin think that they're lying to us? And she's like, he just suspects that it's possible just because ever since Joffrey took over, things have pretty much gone as bad as they could in the city. So he's like, because how poorly the reign has been, it suggests that someone has been giving us very bad counsel. Mm-hmm. Is the way, I guess, the way Tyrion puts it, the way Tywin put it to Tyrion. So Cersei says he has no lack of good counsel. He just doesn't listen. He's willful, or something like that, right?
He's very willful. He's a willful young.
This is the big quote about, I think, Joffrey's personality. The next one.
Well, I think Tyrion has a cool quote that says, "Crowns do queer things to the heads beneath them."
Mine's before that. Now that he's king, he believes he should do as he pleases, not as he bid. And then crowns do queer things to the heads beneath them. Like, Cersei's basically like, he's king now. He thinks he can do whatever he can. He pretty much can. Like,
he can do whatever.
Unless someone stabs him in the back.
He's just
gonna be able to do whatever he wants. And power went to his head is basically what Tyrion's saying.
Yeah, exactly. And again, like I feel like a lot of what we're talking about now kind of goes to the riddle that Varys says at the end of the chapter. We won't bring it up yet, but it like kind of mentions this, right? Like Joffrey says he can do whatever he wants. Tyrion saying, yeah, but Tywin's the one with the fucking army, right? Like he's the one with the that can just like walk in here and fucking kill everybody if he wants to. There's a lot about just like who's actually in charge in situations like this, I think.
So the first fuck up that we bring up is
the Ned.
How did Ned get his head chopped off? Like, what the fuck were you thinking? Chopping off his head.
She explains like the whole send him to the wall shit.
So just in general in this thing, like Cersei is like pretty truthful.
Yeah,
maybe not completely truthful, but like she's like pretty straight up with Tyrion about stuff that she probably doesn't need to be. Like maybe like
it's her. I mean, it's still her brother. I think is part of it too.
Yeah, and there's definitely stuff that she isn't straight up about, and stuff that she wouldn't have been straight up about unless Tyrion like called her out on, right? Like the Jaime thing.
I also think, I also think it's kind of she needs to tell somebody some of this stuff. You know.
She has no one else to like confide in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like she needs to unload a little. So I think that's kind of where it's coming from.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this the first time we're hearing that Sansa was the actual rat?
Yeah. And we discussed this in depth earlier, and I didn't remember this chapter when we did. Cersei gives a lot of credence to Sansa. Like she says, like, I don't know, it might not have happened, which is pretty much the conclusion I think we came to. Is like Cersei might have got away with it, but it'd been way less easy without Sansa's help here.
Right.
And that's pretty much what Cersei says. Is like, yeah, I had some shit in the works, he had some shit in the works, but Sansa really helped us out by just spilling all the beans.
Yeah. And Cersei was like, look, she was in so much love with Joffrey, she would have done anything to stay with Joffrey.
What's her quote? She was like wet with
love.
The girl was wet with love. She would have done anything for Joffrey until he cut off her father's head and called it mercy.
I don't think that's what that means.
So fucking brutal.
That's sort of how I took it too.
Is that not how it means? I thought
that's not how
dumb,
I took it.
Like,
how'd you take it?
Dumb with love.
Yeah,
like
that's
wet behind the ears.
Like,
you know, like she was just so in love with him.
So yeah.
Either way.
So Tyrion pulls that. He has a little quote to pull in the next
also,
she
mentions that the High Septon is pissed at them because they profane.
Yeah,
so
which we didn't know about too. Like
yeah,
I was like,
that
oh
was the
damn,
first time I heard about
like
that. Yeah,
Septon wasn't on board, and then they just spewed blood all over it. But
he's like, well, right.
Tyrion's quote is pretty much like, oh yeah, it's a unique way of winning the hearts of his subjects. Was it Joffrey's wish to dismiss Sir Barristan Selmy from his Kingsguard too? So he just builds on one by one. So we get the story on the Kingsguard and why Joffrey wanted to kick.
I think before that, though, he asked about Janos.
Yeah.
He asked whose idea it was to elevate Janos.
that was Cersei, right? Because he did so much for it. Was that Littlefinger?
It was Littlefinger
Yeah,
because they needed the gold cloaks, and he kind of got the gold cloaks on their side because Ned was planning to revolt with the gold cloaks and Renly.
Exactly. So Cersei's giving us the other half of so we had that Ned chapter
that was
where Ned met with
Littlefinger.
Yeah, he's like, "Go get me the gold cloaks," and then obviously that's not what happened in the throne room. Cersei explains how the opposite of that happened. She's like, "Yeah, I just met with Littlefinger, and basically it was a toss up of who he went with, and he went with us, so it's cool." And she also says, "Yeah, that's when we found the Sansa stuff." And then the next thing, Jeff.
So we roll into who decided to dismiss Selmy. And we find out that it was Joff because he wanted someone to blame for his father's death.
It's actually
Varys' suggestion.
Varys suggested, but Joffrey's like, yeah, I'm cool. And obviously Joffrey wanted someone to blame, and Varys suggested Barristan because it was kind of like a 2-for-1. He was old, got him out of the way, he gave someone to blame, and then also the Hound can come in and be
and he loves the Hound.
Yeah, and Joffrey loves the Hound.
What's Tyrion's kind of reply?
Not only that, Barristan wasn't only a member of the Kingsguard. He was the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. So it doesn't only open up a new seat.
So Jaime gets elevated too.
Jaime becomes Lord Commander. The Hound gets a seat. So that's why you want to dismiss the Lord Commander, because then you get.
He killed 2 people on his way out of town.
Yeah, so then talk about that.
He just bossed two little gold guys.
So why does Tywin say dismissing Barristan's a bad idea? Again, Tyrion tells Cersei why.
How's it going to look when he's riding with Robb, you know?
Yeah, like where is this guy gonna go now? He's like all he does is be Lord
He's
Commander.
like the most
that's always
revered knight in the kingdom right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I always think it's weird. Like if he was just riding around dressed in average clothes, no one's gonna recognize him as.
No way. He's been
Like,
dressed in
they don't have
all white.
Do they
his
even
entire
have
life.
a picture of him? Yeah, and
He's
probably a helmet.
never
So
worn anything but white. He's like Jon Snow, but the opposite. Yeah.
until he tries to like,
And it's
until
not like he has a
kill
banner,
somebody.
right? Does he?
I mean, he has house. He's a house sell me. Like, a lot of the Kingsguard do wear their sigils and shit on their patterns, but they don't normally wear house colors. It's normally white, or at least. I mean, again, that's not even necessarily true. They always would go white cloaks, at least white cloaks, but they do normally wear white armor and shit like that too. Whatever.
That'd be badass.
We pull Barris the Bold, like just a sweet nickname too. Barris the Bold. It's just a dope ass night.
While we're here, any predictions on what happens to Barrison? Because I'm not going to remember at the end of the chapter.
I mean, I think he's going to end up with Rob.
So Selmy goes on and rides with the young wolf.
And then she this is like Tyrion like proving his worth, because he's like, he explains all that and she's like, well, I didn't think of that. He's like, yeah, but Dad did, and that's why he sent me to fucking fix all your mistakes, because you are making mistakes. Here they are.
Yep.
Laid them out.
Josh's not gonna be scared of you. Basically, is what Cersei's saying. And he's like, yeah, we just got to put a little bit of pressure on him.
Yeah. And then he says he might be because he is scared of me.
Because he'll know, he knows, he doesn't listen to you because he knows you won't hurt him.
Yeah.
And Cersei says, if you think I'm going to let you hurt my son, you're a fucking dumbass. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And Tyrion's like, he's as safe with you, or he's as safe with me as he is with you.
But he doesn't
as long
know
as
that.
he doesn't think that, then he might listen to me.
And he hasn't hit him yet as a king, but he has smacked him.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, Tyrion, but you better listen up. You're going to be the king's hand in name, but my hand in title. Like, you don't do shit without talking to me first. And I think Tyrion just straight up says, he's like, of course. And it says he lies. Like, just right now.
Yeah,
like,
of course he lied.
Right off the bat. I was like, are we gonna have to tiptoe around this with Kyle? And I was like, no, straight up it says like he lies. Like, I'm not gonna tell her everything.
Of course he lied.
Certainly he lied. That's literally the quote. What a great.
So he's like, now that we don't have any secrets, who killed Jon Arryn? And Cersei's like, I don't know.
Yeah, what?
What's going on? What are you talking about?
I didn't kill him.
Ned said the same shit. What are you guys talking about?
And Tyrion's like, for some reason, Lysa thought it was me, and I know that I didn't have shit to do with it. So, like, what the fuck's going on?
I'm sure I don't know. That fool Eddard Stark accused me of the same thing. He hinted that Lord Arryn suspected or, well, believed
that you were fucking our sweet Jaime.
She slapped him.
Did you think I was blind as father?
Tyrion rubbed his cheek.
Who you lie with is no matter to me. Although it does not seem quite just that you should open your legs for one brother and not the other.
She slapped him.
Be gentle, Cersei. I'm only jesting with you. If truth be told, I'd sooner have a nice whore. I never understood what Jaime saw in you, apart from his own reflection.
She slapped him. His cheeks were red and burning, yet he smiled.
If you keep doing that, I may get angry.
That stayed her hand.
What should I care if you do?
I have some new friends.
Tyrion confessed.
You won't like them at all. How did you kill Robert?
He did that himself. All we did was help. When Lancel saw that Robert was going after the boar, he gave him strong wine. His favorite sour red, but fortified. 3 times as potent as he was used to. The great stinking fool loved it. He could have stopped swilling it down any time he cared to, but no. He drained one skin and told Lancel to fetch another. The boar did the rest. You should have been at the feast, Tyrion. There has never been a boar so delicious. They cooked it with mushrooms and apples, and it tasted like triumph.
Truly, sister, you were born to be a widow.
That's a great line too. Yeah. That's great. All right.
She slapped him.
So he starts to bail, and she's like, whoa. We've got to save Jaime. How are we saving him? You didn't tell me. And he's like, I don't know yet.
I just got here. Give me his fucking chance. You just told me we were missing a daughter.
Ideas are like fruit. They need time to ripen. Yeah, exactly. He's like, I'm going to take the measure of this city. He's like, I only have one request. Don't lose or let anything happen to Sansa.
Mm-hmm.
So then he leaves. Outside the chamber, he meets back up with Bronn. Timot's gone. Probably not great.
Not great at all.
We did skip something early, and it's real short. I just want to put it back in. But Cersei does know that Sansa hates Tyrion or Joffrey now. That was something else.
Yeah.
Like it's,
after she cut her father's head
she's
off,
like, that was the end of that. Like, we know we can't really, like, she's not a partner anymore in this.
She ain't gonna go snitch on her family anymore.
But so Timot's gone, and that is not good because he fights everybody, right? Like just for the fuck of it, even. Like he starts.
He's the guy who just burned out his own eye with a sword just to prove.
Yeah.
What is Timon, a stone crow?
Burn man.
Burn man. So he's literally like weird.
Burn out burn man like burned like a finger off or something like that. Like when they like become of age, he like burned his own eyeball out. Or I think it's like
yeah. That was start.
He stepped it up essentially. He's like, you guys are doing that pussy shit. I'm burning eye out.
And he's like 19. I didn't realize that until the last chapter. I was like, what? Dude's 19.
You would think him just walking around the castle, like no one's gonna stop him. Are they just like, oh, burn men? Yeah, cool. Like you're in this part of the castle now. You have free reign.
So Tyrion says that like what he had told Cersei wasn't 100% a lie. He did want to ride through the city and see how it was doing, but he had a destination.
Yeah, he's going to the Broken Anvil.
Nice little inn
whorehouse, right?
slash whorehouse.
Yeah, it's gotta
be a
whorehouse.
Brothel or maybe just a hotel. Like
maybe just a place that they were chilling. Shay.
Where was the place that Stark, Aaron, and Stannis all went? Separately.
I think they would just called it Littlefinger's.
I don't remember what it was, but or even where they took Catelyn at first. I forget.
That wasn't the same.
No, it wasn't the same place. I don't think either.
The thing is, there's no way. I don't know how to spell Shatias.
Well, Littlefinger went to a.
It's Shatias brothel.
Shatias. So one kind of interesting thing is that he takes some Lannister guardsmen with him. I'm taking a dozen of Cersei's household guards. Like, they're actually Lannister guards. They can come with me too.
Yeah, it's just part of it. He's bringing the leader of the household guard. So like the
power
Jory.
move. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And who's this Jory? The Jory of the Lannisters. What's his name?
Valar? Captain Valar?
Captain Valar.
Valar, right? That's how I say it.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to see how somebody else was going to say it. Yeah.
Valar.
I was going to see if we're going to get into a Kevan.
I mean, Caven is just like, don't ever.
Caven. It is Caven.
If it's Caven, I quit the podcast.
So yeah, part of this is like kind of what Jeff was getting at is like he wants to talk to this guy and be like, hey, just so you know, you're not here serving Joffrey and Cersei, you're here serving the Lannisters. And guess what? My last name is Lannister, so guess who's here now?
It's power move.
You're on even ground, is what he wants
to
do.
So they get to the gate, which is the first note I have, and he notices the heads on the top, and they're tarred. You can't even recognize them. They've been rotting. But the first kind of command he gives is
clean that shit up.
Take them heads off.
Yeah, Tyrion's
try to put them with the bodies.
And Valar's like, but dude, like the king commanded, and Tyrion's like, you know, the king's 13 years old. Like, sometimes use your fucking head, Valar. Come on. And he like doesn't slap him, but it seems like a little like Jim to Dwight slap. Like, use your fucking head sometimes. He's 13 years old, slap in the back of the head. Like,
I mean, this is the problem with soldiers, though. This is the problem with soldiers. Like, soldiers take command. So he was commanded to leave the heads up there. You leave the heads up there. You know, it's
the fucking number one in command tells you to do that.
If Valar would have not done this, Joffrey would have lost his shit, and Valar would be dead right now from the Hound or something like that, right? So like,
yeah. So
I get what Tyrion's saying, but on the other hand, like, I mean, maybe not. Valar
it's
is
a stupid comment.
Of the guards.
It's
Valar
a stupid
is the
comment.
Captain of the grounds. Like he could really like try to go to war on this against Joffrey and be like, I'm not going to do this.
No,
it's
so
bad.
Stupid.
And like, yeah, but there's no way you're going to make that big of a stance. Which
like
is what Tyrion maybe is suggesting.
We don't know enough about Valar right now. Like Jory was so close to Ned. Like we got point of view of like them caring about Jory and Ned caring about Jory. Tywin might not give a fuck about Valar. He might just be another guy. And he'd be like, yeah, chop him off. We'll give this guy the job. So
I think it was another power move, though, at the same time where he was like saying, like, so what? I mean, he's not mad at him for leaving him up there this long, but he's mad at him for saying no to him now, the hand of the king kind of thing. And I think it's kind of him saying, like, don't fucking question me. I'm telling you what to do.
Now on.
He's 13. Like, I'm giving you this order right now. Listen to me now, kind of thing.
Yeah, strike some fear into him,
which also gives him like a little backing, right? Because like I said a second ago, if Valar would have defied Joffrey before Tyrion was here,
I think he understood that, but I think he's like I said, I think he's refuting like him arguing with him now. Like
exactly, Tyrion's like the rules are changed now.
Yeah.
If he gives you a ridiculous command, know that there's people that I got your back. Don't do it. Like use your own fucking judgment. Is kind of what he's saying.
Talk to me and we'll work it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
He threatens to put his head up there. and then he says he's going to take him down.
Yeah. Okay. No, never mind. They're good. Those heads will come down on the morrow. I'll make sure of it myself.
So once he starts walking through the city, he's like, King's Landing was never like the best city ever, right? It was no.
I mean, it's a city, right? So, like, you've got, like, the really pretty spots, and you've got the really...
Yeah, we got crime, but he's like, it's so bad right now. He's like, literally, there's, like, a corpse. There's, like, rats. There's, like,
a corpse is getting eaten by feral dogs.
And no one gives a fuck. Yeah. Like, it's just, like, any other day in the streets. Like,
well, I meant the fresh rats. People are selling rats to eat at this point.
Yeah, better than this stale, rotten rats, huh?
It's probably
if you're going to eat a rat, at least it'd be fresh, you know?
So, on the street of Bakers or whatever, what's it called? The street of Flour?
Yeah. Street of Flour.
The bakers
sell sort at every door.
Guards are cheaper than bread. It's like the city
is
not in a great spot right now.
Do you think the Street of Flour would be like the first thing you go for? Like, I'm assuming that most people have kind of the wherewithal to make some kind of their own bread in this time period.
I don't know.
Make some flour.
I don't know.
Make some flour and water and make like some flat. I guess.
Where do you get yeast?
You don't need yeast. You can make flatbread, or you can make something. Bread. You can make something with enough flour and water.
Non-bread is unleavened.
Yeah, but how do you get the wheat?
One thing that like I think can get missed really quick here that is like actually really depressing if you think about it is it says
you steal it from that Street of Flour.
That's why that's
what I'm saying. That's why they have guards. Because like they would. Okay. Oh, we need to eat food. Like, what can we make? We can make bread. Let's go steal flour.
Gotcha.
Now I got what you're saying.
So one thing that I think can be easily missed here that is also kind of really depressing if you think about it is he says, I don't know the exact quote, but my notes say in the markets that there were people selling household goods for any price they could, but there was very little people selling food, which means like people in the city are out of money. They've already spent all their money on food, like at whatever price.
Right.
So they're just like, everything is just like yard sales. Like everyone just selling anything they have. Yeah, all household goods is whatever everything is in the market.
This is just classic supply and demand principle. Economics works in King's Landing too.
And everyone outside the city is just funneling into the city where there's no food.
Yeah, more and more people are showing up.
And we find out about some more problems or about
there's
potential
taxes.
problems. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead about the tax. Like who?
So they're taxing everyone that comes into the city, all the refugees, and that money's going to making the wildfire that Cersei wants to make.
The wildfire. So there's a little bit of both.
We skipped one little thing. So he says, "What's happening?" She asks, like, "Valar, what's going on?" And she's like, "Janos Slynt has tripled the size of the City Watch, and there's like 1,000 craftsmen working on our defenses. Stonemason are strengthening the walls. So like we're preparing for war pretty well, right? We're building scorpions and catapults. Hundreds of archers are fletching arrows. And we got the Alchemists Guild pledged 10,000 jars of wildfire. And Tyrion was glad that Cersei was doing something, but wildfire and 10,000 jars was enough to burn down the entire city. And he knows that Robert left the crown in a ton of debt. And he's like, how the fuck are we paying for all these like wartime expenses when we don't even have food to feed the people? Mm-hmm. And then this is when we find out about the tax, which is like all these people who are needed to come in. Like, what's going on with the tax?
So people that need to come in for safety are giving up their life saving to come in, and then they're just a part of the mess of having nothing. So like it doesn't make any. So then they become a city watchman. They're kind of safe. They're going to starve to death.
Kyle, go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, they're in walls. They were out in the middle of nowhere. They lost their towns, their homes, everything they had. They had to go somewhere.
So I don't know if everyone's lost their town, though.
I mean, I think some of them are refugees and some of them are like, I can't even plow my field right now. There's about to be a war in front of us. Got to get out of our fucking house.
What's weird is we don't really know what this even means at this point, but Tyrion does not. He's kind of focused on when he says Littlefinger's tax is cruel. He says it's cruel because of the fact that there's wildfire, not the fact that there's no food. Right? Leave the wildfire aside. I think you have a major problem here with people coming into a city where there's no food. Right? There's already no food. People are just doing yard sales in the streets to try and buy food, and you just have more people pile in.
I think he was saying it's cruel because they had nowhere else to go, and they're taking advantage of a situation. And
exactly,
that's how I took it, Cal.
I don't think it's the wildfire.
Exactly, no, but no. Tyrion says it's a wild. Like
no, he's like though they might think twice.
I think they're coming in. They think they're safe, but there's actually 10,000 things of wildfire here. Like you could all be dead.
Either way, the food situation is not good. Like it's bad. Like they're like Kyle said, they're already down to selling rats is like one of the most promising options, and more people are still piling in. So Tyrion's like, this is not good. So then I think the next thing is to just get to the broken anvil. Right.
Yep. And he hears Chella's voice is the first one, which is one little thing that Tyrion mentions is it's
black ears.
The anvil is within sight of the gate of the gods, which is the gate that Varys
they came through.
And Varys is about.
Well, they came through today, right?
Exactly, but like Tyrion says that he can see the gate from like the courtyard of this place. Like they're not that far in, right? Mm-hmm. Which I just think is interesting when you know that Varys is about to bring this up. And as he goes in, he like he tells Valar the truth, but like obviously Valar has no idea what he's saying, and he's like, are you gonna be? He's like, go back to the city. I'll be fine. I'm gonna stay here for the night. He's like, are you gonna be safe? Well, so far as that, Captain. When I left the inn this morning, it was full of black ears. One is never quite safe when Chella, daughter of Cheek, is about. Tyrion waddled toward the door, leaving Valar to puzzle at his meeting. Like, just like, what the fuck is Valar gonna take of that? He's like, what the. Okay,
yeah, a bunch of names that he never heard
black
before.
Ears, and who is Cello son of
what the fuck does that mean? What is a black ear? Yeah, exactly. So he goes inside, and Jeff, what you're saying? He basically just hears everyone's laughing.
Yep. So he hears Chella's cackle. He sees Shay. She must be looking pretty good. Shay's laughing a little bit. At
first, he thinks is the innkeep, but quickly realizes it's not true because he just greets Tyrion.
Yeah. Comes right up to him.
Hey, what's up?
My good
pissed.
lord, I'm so pleased to see you.
Tyrion is pissed. He would not happy
to
be found this quickly.
Already.
No.
Yeah.
Like you said, 10 feet in the wall.
How the fuck?
And he knows.
So Kyle, any thoughts about this right off the bat?
What do you mean?
How did Varys find her?
He told him.
Her, him. Just like any thoughts about just like Varys? This is a new we haven't heard that much about Varys.
Well, I mean, we know he's the spider and he's the guy of whispers, right? So like, he's got a network of spies, obviously.
I'm also going to bring up one other weird thing that happened in the first book that a lot of people forget. What happened when Cat first arrived?
Littlefinger was there.
Yep, and Littlefinger says like,
how did Varys show up?
But he says like, I knew you were here because of my friend. Varys had like told her. Yeah. So like. Both Cat and
who's coming and going.
Are trying to sneak into the city undetected. Can't. Neither one from Varys. Yep.
The weird thing I'm thinking of, like, all right, so they got spies. How does he ID Shay as Tyrion? Like, were they holding hands walking through the gate?
Well, I mean, he probably went in there and started talking to everybody.
Yeah. So maybe he just, like, his spy was like, oh, they dropped off this girl at here.
When she was probably sitting with him too, like in the wagon or riding the horse, talking with him.
That's a stupid. If that's true, it's bad by Tyrion.
Well, it's also a stupid move by Tyrion to go the first night. He hasn't even stayed one night, and he's telling the captain of the guard, "Hey, I'm staying at this fucking hotel instead of the Tower of the Hand."
He could have definitely maybe split up the party into two groups. Been like, all right, second group, you drop off Shay here, or a smaller group, or just Shay walk in by herself. Whatever you do
to get in, then though.
Yeah, I mean,
she has to cover
like, oh, hey,
she would have had to walk in
with a bunch of ugly clansmen and ugly woman clansmen, and there's one super hot whore.
You'd have to hide her. You'd have to like do something to like make her look like a servant.
So here's a question though: how didn't Tyrion know about this tax?
If he had to come in,
because he was just a Lannister guard.
Possession,
or,
yeah. I mean, they didn't say anything, or like nobody.
I don't think, dude. When you're,
you think he was at the front of the line?
Yeah, 100%.
You think he was the first one going through?
When he got close to the gate, he probably went towards the front.
You think so?
Yeah, I don't think there was any shot that like he knew about.
They're like,
tax,
wait, you need to pay the tax. He'd be like, fuck off.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I do think that
Shay was definitely part of his party, though. Like, obviously, like being treated well, to what Kyle was saying. And I think also importantly to what Glo was saying, Tyrion is not treating this with any caution at all at this point. Valar, who he a second ago was literally like, hey, I know you're literally only loyal to Cersei and Joffrey. Come with me. Come with me to where Shay's living. Like,
he scared him. He scared him a little bit. Like,
and he doesn't know that what's inside, right? He took him to a place. Mm-hmm. He has no idea what's actually inside of this place. But still, like, he's not treating this with very much caution. And I think this is going to be a little eye-opening. The second that Varys is like, Yo, what's up, dude?
So the next, like, the big thing is that Shay, like, goes right up to Tyrion like it's no big deal, and Varys is already calling him his young lady.
Well, he's like, I wanted to see your young lady, and Shay's like, that's only young lady is only half true phrase, which I didn't really understand at first.
She's not a lady.
Probably not she's not a lady. She's a whore.
Obviously, like, lady means lady in like Game of Thrones terms, like lady is in like a lord's wife, right? Like a fancy, highborn,
respectable.
She's like, I'm young, and Tyrion immediately thinks like 18 and sweet as a button
and a whore.
He says, 19, a whore with some nice tits.
Yeah, Tyrion's all about it. Because the young part is what he's attaching on, but also he does mention 18, so legal. Also, Tyrion's only like 20.
There's no age of consent. There's like 14-year-olds getting married and having kids. Not in this
world, but I'm saying like even if you have a problem with it in this current world,
it's 18 or 19. 18, yeah.
So this is when Varys just like starts dropping like little subtle, or does Tyrion give like a little subtle threat?
Tyrion's like, I'm sorry, you guys were having fun. Go back to having fun.
Oh, he's like, what were you talking about? What was the little conversation they were having that led to all the laughter that happened when Tyrion walked in? Basically, Varys had complimented Chella on her necklace and said like, oh, you have a very lovely necklace. We find out later she has 46 ears on her necklace. He's like, oh,
you must have killed a bunch of people. And she's like, no, I don't kill them. Like, I'm not scared of them. I just want them to remember me.
So I assume this is a black ear tradition,
statement.
Right? Is this a Chella thing or a black ear thing?
Oh, that's a good question.
It might just be a Chella. I think it's just a Chella thing.
No, I think that's black ears. I think that's like why they're called the black ears. For sure, because they probably turn black on their necklace.
We kind of skimmed over Kyle. What is it? What's their whole deal? If this is a black ear thing, what's the gimmick?
So I mean, you can come back and win back your ear if you want to free yourself from the shame of losing your ear.
And it shows that the people who took the ear they're not.
Yeah,
afraid
I did say that.
Enemies.
Yeah, it's a fear thing. She's not afraid, so she doesn't kill anybody. She just cuts off their ear. Well, she kills people, I'm sure, but.
And then Varys, the reason he had made a little quip about this, which is why everyone was laughing. He says, I could do that because then I would never sleep for fear of one-eared men.
And Tyrion's like, a problem I will never need face. I'm terrified of my enemies.
So I kill them all.
So I kill them all.
Basically, this is when Tyrion gives like a lot of inner monologue about this. Like, he's playing like veiled threat ping pong back and forth with Varys. Or at least, maybe Varys isn't even really doing veiled threats. I think a lot of what Tyrion thinks here is accurate, but maybe not all
So
of
he's
it is
about
accurate.
He's about to drop one, and Varys kind of like shows his hand a little bit. He's like, oh, you know that gate? I always like to return through the God's gates when I come back to the city. And it's like, oh, did you get to see like how nice the carvings are?
The
and
eyes really pop.
Yeah, the eyes are so exquisite. They almost follow you. Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
Tyrion's like, obviously that means that you've been watching us.
Okay, so you got someone at the gate.
And Shay's like, I gotta go see that. And Tyrion's like, don't fucking bother. That's what that means. Yeah, and then
Shay's so stupid.
No, I think it just shows the level of cunning, I guess, is what I'm getting at here. Like everybody else that went over, like it's like a kid watching some cartoon and then you watch it as an adult and it's like you missed like 90% of it. I think that's what it is. It's like she's new to this world of.
It's like when I'm like, oh, I'm gonna take the dog on a WALK, and I'm just like talking above that person's like comprehension.
That's
you know what I mean? To not get the dog excited.
That's Shay right now.
Yeah, Shay
and the dog doesn't freak out yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, a WALK.
That doesn't mean walk. Yeah. Luke, chill out.
So Varys kind of brings up like how the streets are kind of crazy right now. Like lawless men are running around and men with cold steel and colder hearts.
Varys saying like, I can go unarmed through the cities. And Tyrion again is like, I know that means that you just mean like where you can go unarmed. You can send people that are not unarmed. So like if you found us, you could have just sent like an assassin in your place is basically what Tyrion's saying.
Yeah.
He's like what he thinks that means. And Shay's like, if they bother me, then like Chella will fuck them up. And he's like, Varys is like, ah, ha, 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 ha,
take good care of her.
Like, and Tyrion thinks it's a fake laugh. He's like, you better take care of that one. Again, I think it's because like she has no idea what she's gotten herself into. It's a little bit of like what Varys is saying here, and like you better take care of her. And Tyrion's like, oh, I plan to. Like anyone who doesn't, like if anyone touches her, like they're gonna be in for it. Is pretty much what Tyrion shoots back.
He has no claims of courage. He'll kill the person because he doesn't want to take a black ear.
Exactly. And Varys like, before I leave, He's like, have you seen the comet? He's like, I just wanted to welcome you. Have you seen the comet?
I'm short, not blind.
Very
says, dumb shit.
This in the streets they call it the Red Messenger, and they say it comes as a herald before a king to warn of fire and blood to follow. And he says, "Can I leave you with a riddle?" Kyle, read the riddle. Give me a Varys voice.
May I leave you with a bit of a riddle, Lord Tyrion?
He did not wait for an answer.
In a room sit 3 great men, a king, a priest, and a rich man with his gold. Between them stands a sellsword, a little man of common birth and no great mind. Each of the great ones bids him slay the other 2. Do it, says the king, for I am your lawful ruler. Do it, says the priest, for I command you in the names of the gods. Do it, says the rich man, and all his gold shall be yours. So tell me, who lives and who dies?
Bowing deeply, the eunuch hurried from the common room on soft slippered feet.
So then he leaves. Shay immediately basically says the rich man wins. And it's like, is that right? Asks Tyrion,
doesn't
that's
he?
right. And Tyrion's like,
doesn't
I think
he?
It depends on the sellsword. And then Tyrion just doesn't give a fuck anymore and wants to go fuck Shay. But let's think about it. Kyle, what do you think of this riddle?
Sellsword.
It's a riddle, man.
The sellsword.
What you agree with Tyrion? It depends on the sellsword?
No.
He's saying the sellsword lives.
Yeah, he's the only one that
He could
leaves.
just kill everybody?
He killed.
Does he get
That's
it?
the answer.
Then he
Yeah.
doesn't get anything.
The man with the sword.
He'll take the gold.
He gets all
Just 'cause you
3.
kill all 3 doesn't mean, how do you get
He's
all
the
3?
riches.
No, there's other people there.
Yeah.
Like Lily put.
I mean,
Lily
if-
put 3.
if you truly
Lily put
believe
3
that the
placeholders for
gods-
these people in the place, right? Like who's like the richest person? Like I don't know. Like fucking Tywin. I mean, it's weird because Tywin holds a
Then he
holds
gets
a
his
lot of
gold.
positions. Like Tywin might be like the rich man. I guess Tywin, Joffrey, and the High Septon, right? And you put a sellsword. If he kills all of them,
Yeah,
like,
all
and
right,
you put
but-
Bronn in the middle, Bronn kills all of them, he gets nothing after that. If you literally put those people in a room and he kills all of them, Bronn gets nothing out of that.
You don't understand riddles, it seems, Nelson.
I think the point of it is like, yes, the sellsword holds all the power, but you can't just kill all of them. Yes, he like it's what.
Well, you definitely could.
Yeah, but
It's definitely an
sure, but
option
you
to
don't
kill
get
them all.
anything. Like literally in any real life
Yeah, the
situation, you
sellsword's
wouldn't
not
get
going to
anything.
win.
The point is if you obey one of them, then they can bestow something on you, right? That's the whole point.
All right, well, hold on. But while you say that, let me just cut you off. Do it, says the king, for I am your lawful ruler. He gets nothing for the king to stay alive.
If he obeys the king, you don't think anything's going to happen to him. He's not going to get
Get a
lands and
house,
lordships.
being lord.
Maybe.
Okay.
Not in the riddle. Not in the riddle sense. Just in the riddle sense, he's saying, do this because
Okay.
I'm in charge. The priest is saying, do this because the gods are on my side. The god's not going to come like knocking on your door or write you a message. You know, it's all mythological. So the only person you're actually getting something from is the rich man, which is why Shay obviously says like, oh, the rich guy wins because he's
I
going
don't
to
know.
actually get the gold. The other 2 guys, he's maybe protected by the king and maybe protected in the afterlife by the priest. But like he's not actually getting like anything, he's getting the least amount from the
get it,
priest.
but I think Tyrion is like really onto something before he like doesn't give a fuck anymore. And like, yes, the sellsword is the one who chooses who has power, but like, it doesn't really. The sellsword doesn't have all the power. He can't just kill everyone because he doesn't get anything. He has to be on someone's side.
Why couldn't he take the
mean,
crown? If he
yeah.
kills the king, why couldn't he take the crown?
It's like
It doesn't say that
so,
the
like-
king has
so,
an
like,
army at his back
Sure, like
while
Robert
he says
Baratheon
that.
can kind of do that because he has an army at his back, but like Bronn could not do that.
It's a riddle
It's a riddle.
that you're
It's a
like
riddle.
reading
You're-
way too far into it. I think.
You are reading way too far into it, I think.
I agree with Nelson here.
I agree with Kyle, and I can't wait to talk about this in the spoiler section. Just so he can not hold any punches.
The sellsword doesn't represent physical strength, right? It's not like God versus physical strength for gold versus kingship. That's not what this riddle is. The sellsword is a representation of who, like people, like a person who can choose who to follow when there's multiple options, right? And the
Okay.
answer is it depends on the person, and that's what Tyrion. That's what.
Okay,
And
I'll accept
what's
that.
funny is Shay, who's a whore, right? Her occupation. Her
Right for
occupation
the
is
money. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and he even thinks that towards the end, I think. He's like, yeah, you only like me for my gold anyway. Or he
which
doesn't
is
say
probably
it was-
why you guys are indirectly correct, right? Sellsword, by definition, is someone who sells their sword for gold. So the rich man always wins, and that's in this situation, if you take it literally from a Game of Thrones sense, a sellsword doesn't give a fuck about religion or kingship. They just sell their
that's not what I was saying, but I was just kind of defending Kyle.
That's just like how I think that's like what this is meant to be, like in like a thematic, or I don't know. I'm not an English teacher.
You were getting way too deep with like, oh, the king has 10,000
You
men.
guys were just taking. I think the thing is 3 different sources of power in a person who has to decide who's more important. And I thought you guys were abstracting the sellsword as to just a 4th body, like physical strength versus God versus money versus blah blah blah. And you're just like, and Kyle's answer was whoever has the army, which is the right answer if you look at the riddle in that sense, right? Because that's exactly what happened with Robert. That's exactly what Tyrion's saying in this chapter with Tywin. Like Tywin has the army, he decides who what the fuck happens. It doesn't matter who is the king, who is the crown on their head.
He has the weapon. He has the weapon in this room. So that's what I'm saying, is that he could kill all 3 of them and come out ahead. 100%.
Which is all valid. Which is all valid points, but
that's a valid ass point. Like you can't deny that point.
And again, I think a theme in this chapter, but I think slightly different than what this riddle was meant to be posing. Maybe.
He had to pick one to live, Kyle. It's not like, oh, fuck, marry, kill. No, I don't want to do any of it.
I didn't see that in the rules. I didn't see that in the rules. I'm defending. I didn't think about this when I first read it, but I'm going to defend Kyle because I think it's a great answer, and I think it has merit for sure.
Either way, I think it's really interesting to think about. Regardless of who's right, I think it was a good conversation. And
we don't know who's right because we're not George.
We're not George.
All right, so Tyrion takes Shay up to bed. Tyrion takes Shay up to bed. I don't really have anything. Tyrion ends up banging Shay. Like he's like in his mind.
Oh, you only like me for my money.
He's in his own mind. Yeah, like, oh, I'm your little lion. I'm your big lion. No, you just want my coin.
She makes a joke about the hand, the Tower of the Hand, because like you can't
you're gonna be jerking yourself off. Yeah.
She calls him my lion, my sweet lord, my giant of Lannister. They fuck. They're done. As soon as they're done, you get that like post nut clarity. Tyrion's like, she's a fucking whore. Why do I keep doing this to myself? Like, remember Tysha? She doesn't give a fuck about me. Like, I'm a dwarf. She doesn't care about my cock. She just cares about me being rich. She literally said it at the end of that riddle. And then he touches her nipple and he totally forgets about everything he was just thinking about. And she's like, what are you going to do now? And he's like, I'll do justice.
Boom, 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 boom.
Close scene. Thoughts?
Means a lot. At the very least, it's the Littlefinger stuff.
Is he Batman now?
Justice. Peace.
I mean, we might see a redemption arc here a little bit, I think. I mean, not that he's ever really done anything too terrible himself that we've seen. Let me start there, I guess.
Just banged whores. What's wrong with that?
He's been drinking and whoring around.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, he hasn't done a lot of stuff, but I think he's going to do things like he now thinks he's king, essentially, which he probably pretty much is.
He's the only one that's going to be...
Seems to be the hand is pretty important.
You know, Joffrey, if he went to a council meeting, would probably be able to like hold court, but he's not going there. He's off doing 13-year-old boy.
Yeah, Cersei was sitting in the hand... When Tyrion walks in, Cersei was sitting in the king's seat. So Tyrion sat in the hand seat. Like just while Cersei was like reading the letter before she even really knew what was going on. He's like, it'll be appropriate. And then like when she reads it, she like looks at him and he's just like right there to her right hand side or whatever.
Yeah. So now at the least it's gonna be Tyrion and Cersei in a room headbutting each other for what they want to happen, and the little other members of the council picking sides, maybe. I mean, there's like it's an even number.
I mean, he already obviously
2v2 if they go.
He already obviously doesn't like Varys and Littlefinger and Janos Slint, and like I don't know if he knows Pycelle too well yet.
We also,
or at least not enough
just
to
as
hate
a general
him.
point, we also now have 2 POVs in King's Landing again. So I kind of I was kind of like fake suggesting that Sansa was going to be her only POV in King's Landing, which would make her more interesting. Now we have Tyrion also in King's Landing. Again, not as nearly as closely related to Sansa as Ned was, so they're probably going to be giving us info on different things, but who knows?
For sure.
Yep. They're both in King's Landing.
Sansa's not going to be involved in all these meetings and stuff, so that's another thing.
I'm a big fan of just in general the council meetings, even the ones from the last book with Ned, these ones with Tyrion. I like seeing
What are you, a politics
The
guy?
politics at play. Yeah, I am in Game of Thrones. I don't like it in the real world. It's depressing as fuck when it's
I think I agree
life.
with you. I think I agree with you. All right. Anything else? Kyle, predictions? Tyrion, he just goes off in council meetings?
I mean, he's gonna do his best to bring justice, and like I said before, I think he's gonna try and find the answer to some of these real life riddles, like the knife, and try and understand a little more Varys stuff, and not that they're likable characters, but they are, like I said before, and I'm gonna say it again. They were the most intriguing kind of at this point, in the sense that they're
Varys and
Littlefinger, because they have so much weirdness going around them. Because it was Varys and I can't think of his name now. The guy
Illyrio.
with
Illyrio.
Mm-hmm.
Illyrio, yeah, right. It was him with Illyrio.
Illyrio,
like, I mean, so like there's a little, there's a little more there. And just kind of his network. Hopefully we find out a little bit more about that. Stuff like that.
I don't have any more focused.
Nah,
Yeah, I
we're
don't
good.
really have a
That's it.
prediction per se.
We're good.
But
Yep.
Wrap it
No,
up.
let's
Go.
go.
Hit your deal.
All right, Kat, it was great hanging out, bud. We'll see you on the next episode for brand 1 of A Clash of Kings. Have a good night, my
I
friend.
mean, fuck you. I wasn't done yet. No, I'm just kidding. All right, guys. Later on. Later, nerds.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
See you later, Kat. It was great hanging out, friend. We'll see you on the next episode for brand 1 of Clash of Kings. Now, on to the spoiler section of Tyrion 1. Boys, what are your hot takes for this episode?
I just spoiled this for you guys in the in between of the podcast and the spoiler section, but we start the chapter off with Mandon Moore.
He's the one that goes after Tyrion and pod kills
Mandy.
on the...
I didn't remember that. If Glo didn't say it off camera, like I would have been like, "What? Who's Manamora? He's a Kingsguard guy."
Exactly.
No clue.
Yeah, he's the one who tries to kill Tyrion. A little bit also about Mandon Moore. He was appointed by the Kingsguard through reference of Jon Arryn. But we also hear that Jon Arryn doesn't really like Mandon Moore.
We hear that Jon Arryn doesn't like Manamora.
Jon Arryn doesn't really like Mandon Moore. But
I don't recall
Mandon Moore's from the Vale, and Jon Arryn appoints him. So how does that happen?
Lysa wanted ears? I don't know. Or he wanted to fucking make sure he didn't get any lands or houses?
Or if Lysa told Jon Arryn to put Mandon Moore in the Kingsguard, maybe who would have told Lysa Arryn to tell Jon Arryn that?
Littlefinger.
Who has done a lot of shit against Tyrion so far. Makes sense that Littlefinger wants Tyrion dead. There's a lot of evidence that Mandon Moore is Littlefinger's man.
Littlefinger's man. I never even...
Littlefinger.
Have you told me that one before? That's one I've never thought about.
Maybe, but you probably didn't care because it didn't really come up ever at any importance in the chapter. But yeah, there's theories that Mandon Moore is Littlefinger's man.
I feel like we've always said that Joffrey. It was Joffrey.
Tyrion thinks that Cersei and Joffrey tried to kill him. But there's really no evidence of that. Cersei and Joffrey both say that they didn't really try to. They never really tried to kill him. They never admit. No one ever admits to it, right? Even Littlefinger doesn't even admit to it. But it makes more sense that Mandon. A lot of people. I mean, that's definitely people who are deep into the Game of Thrones theory fandom know that Preston Jacobs 100% thinks that, but I think that's definitely a very logical thing that Mandon Moore's even.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
Preston Jacobs,
if he's from the Vale,
Mandon Moore is 100% Littlefinger. He's from the Vale. Jon Arryn. There's a quote where Jon Arryn was never fond of the man, but Jon Arryn had recommended him to the Kingsguard through Lysa Arryn's recommendation or something like that, which kind of leads to Littlefinger at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a cool take. I never even thought of.
Yeah, I think I told you guys off if I already read this, but I think I said it off podcast, off recording. The very first line of the chapter just says, "In the chilly white raiment of the Kingsguard, Sir Mandon Moore looked like a corpse in the shroud," which doesn't really like. Yeah, he dies by Podrick, which doesn't really isn't super foreshadowy, but it's definitely a creepy way to start with this weird Kingsguard guy. Again, everything we said with Jaime says he's the most dangerous. He's the one that tries to kill Tyrion. Sansa says he has cold dead eyes. He's emotionless. All this shit, right?
Yeah.
The big quote that we got to get to with Mandamore is Glow's quote. Go ahead, Glow.
What? How many times they fucking say "sweet" every fucking other sentence?
I mean, small but sweet victory.
Yeah, so that's the only one that's the only sweet in the whole chapter. I think is like non-binary. Like it actually means sweet this time, but all the other times it's like coded in sarcasm.
Well, I think if you look at it in the fact that, like, yeah, maybe Tyrion wins this bout against Mandamore, but who gets? I mean, again, Mandon dies.
He wins every battle against them.
Tyrion doesn't win against Mandon. Mandon wins against Tyrion. Pod wins against Mandon. I would say Mandon fucking cuts Tyrion's nose off.
Tyrion lost his nose. Mandon dies.
It's not
you can cut some off of my nose. I know. I get it. I get it. We all get it. Back in season 5. We all after season 5, Tyrion's nose is just back. No one gives a fuck. He still doesn't win.
His nose is fucking gone in the books, dude.
Sure.
Gonzo.
Right, but that's not
big ass cut in his face.
Who's alive and who's not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, but who did it? Who did it?
No. It doesn't matter. He's so lost.
All right, well, we got in the council chamber.
Chamber?
I'm drunk as fuck, dude.
I can tell.
We've been literally podcast started over like 3 hours ago. I sent the invite 3 hours ago.
All right, so we get in the council. Like, do we want to talk about the history of the hands at all? Like, I want to just mention one thing. Like, don't be the hand. Ned should have never left. Being the hand is bad. That's all I really have.
I mean, I agree with that. Ned should have never left. I forget who all the other hands were, though.
There's some spoilers in these hands. You guys don't know any of these hands? The last one.
Aaron
the last
Stark.
one. Who died? Who died during the attack of King's Landing?
Sack at King's Landing.
They were killed by the same person who killed the king.
Jamie killed him, but I don't know who.
Rossart, the pyromancer.
He was
Aerys says, burn them all.
Yeah,
Rossart runs to do it.
Okay.
Jamie kills him and then kills Aerys.
I didn't remember that.
That's how that goes.
I do remember now that after they were like, we'll just make the pyromancer hand. Yeah.
He tells Brienne that, so the hand before him, basically, he tried to stop the wildfire plan. There was like a council where he's like, we're going to have a wildfire and we're going to burn everybody if shit doesn't go our way. And this guy, Lord Carlton Chestiel, was like, you don't like that? We're going to fucking burn you. Rossart, you're the new hand. You're the guy who's going to burn you. Yeah,
I remember that.
Before him, there was a hand by a little name of John Connington.
John Con. Redfire.
That ring any bells?
It's a Redfire.
He was the hand of Aerys?
He was the hand suspected of... He lost the Battle of the Bells against Robert, which again John Con thinks of later in Dance of Dragons. And because he lost that battle, Aerys exiles him. Before that, Owen Merryweather, who I think is the father of the Merryweather who... the girl who Cersei starts having like lesbian relations with and is like super like weird with when she starts getting chapters. Taina Merryweather. This is their dad. He was the hand prior, which is why they're like so close with the court, right? He was also exiled for suspicion of helping the rebels because Aerys started being kind of crazy. Before that, Tywin Lannister had left, right? So there's like, we got Rossart, who Jamie killed, who I even gave Kyle his name. He doesn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
Pyromancer,
to be fair to Kyle, like, I didn't know.
Obviously not. I mean, and it's weird that Tyrion doesn't mention that. He says like, well, the last hand was killed during the Saga of King's Landing. It doesn't like ever like probably it's really surprising that most people in the room don't know that. If Littlefinger doesn't know that, I'd be super surprised that Jamie killed Rossart. You know what I mean?
Here's the one thing I'll say is like, maybe they're like the last two kings under King Robert. They're not thinking of King Aerys.
Also, to be fair, actually, now that I'm saying that, Tyrion might not even know that Jamie killed him. Because Jamie says that to Brienne in the bathtub, so we know that. Yeah. But like, it's kind of a huge confession. No one really knows what happened at that time. So like,
he just died during the second King's Landing. Yeah,
I always thought like Tyrion was kind of being cryptic when he was telling Littlefinger this, but it's actually very probable that he doesn't even know.
Yeah,
that Jamie was
I completely agree because of how powerful the speech that Jamie has in the tub. It's like, oh, I'm giving you my whole soul. Like, he didn't tell that to many people. Like, I doubt he even told that to Cersei. I was like
100%.
Just a secret for himself. Littlefinger's dagger. Do we need to get on that at all? Like,
No, I think we're good there. I mean, we've talked about that a bunch.
So the next biggest thing I have is just kind of how Littlefinger is ploying to get Janos Slynt to Harrenhal and up.
Before we get into any of that, real quick, just like in general, kind of what you were saying earlier, Jeff, Glow's word. It's big, huge in this chapter. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
They use it at least 6 times.
The big one that I even told Kyle was like, when Varys like, oh, the one that stuck out, at least to me, Glow, it's your words, that you tell me what you thought, which one like was more important. The one that I thought was most important was when Varys was like, you must have yearned to hear your sweet sister's voice.
Yeah.
And then as soon as Varys is gone, they're like, oh, I missed my sweet sister's voice. And he's like, I missed to have that fucking Varys' tongue cut out. Glow, that I thought maybe lends a little credence to a theory that you found out recently that
you literally winked at me during it. I was like,
I did, because I saw Jeff and Kyle are both deep in their books, and I like gave you a little wink because you texted me this morning about a little quote. I don't know if you wanted to bring it up. If not, we can.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about it. I mean, especially because they talk about Varys getting his tongue cut.
Were those tweets italicized? I didn't notice.
I think
like, obviously the ones that are italicized, like if it's italicized, it brings attention to you.
I'm not sure about the sweets, but what Glow and I are talking about is something slightly different. And Glow, I don't know if you watched the same video. I've seen a video on this before, and I rewatched it before this podcast in anticipation of talking about it. The video says that in Cersei's chapters, they say that Cersei is one of the suspects of people who might do that to him. And in all of the chapters we get of her, half of them, she mentions ripping out tongues.
Wait, what's the theory?
I feel the like theory is that Tyrion's tongue gets ripped out.
When?
And like towards the end of the books.
Before the end of the books. It's not like a huge, crazy important theory.
That's such a weak theory you're going to bring up right now.
Oh, it's just like a theory. So like Jaime lost his sword hand, which was his like
that's a guess.
main weapon.
I get
Cersei lost her kids, who are all her main weapon of power.
No, Cersei's is her beauty, right? It's like her walk of shame. She's talking about how she's fat, and the people are calling her a whore. Like she doesn't have that sway of. She doesn't have that sway of I'm the fucking hottest bitch in the realm anymore. You want to fuck like how she gets power? The whole thing, like, oh, I'll fuck the Kettle Black to get him to do whatever I want to do. I'll fuck this guy Lancel to get him to do whatever
what's
I
the point? So
and then Tyrion loses his tongue, which is his main weapon.
I get it. So the Lannisters lose all of their power.
Each one of them loses their most precious thing, and they have to learn how to be. And they have to learn how to overcome that and become powerful without the thing that
they overcome it?
Relied on. Jaime does. We don't know about the other two.
Does he?
I mean, it's a redemption arc. Right? People like Jaime after he loses his hand.
What does he?
People don't really like Jaime beforehand, and they kind of.
I'm trying to think of where we leave Jaime at the end of the last book. I don't even recall.
I mean, he's got isn't he?
At the very end of the last book, Brienne has actually come back, and like in the last Jaime chapter, we hear that like an outrider has caught Brienne, and they're like, "You need to come with her right now." And he's like, "Okay, I will." He like goes off into the woods to meet Brienne. The last Brienne chapter we saw before that, she was about to be hung by Lady Stoneheart, and Lady Stoneheart's like, "Unless you go kill Jaime Lannister, who gave you that sword, we're going to hang you." And she's like, well, then you're going to hang me. And then they go to hang her, and as they're hanging her, Brienne shouts a word, and that's the end of the chapter. Then we get another Jaime chapter where an outrider caught Brienne, and he wants to meet with Jaime.
So again,
it's ambiguous. Like maybe Lady Stoneheart killed Brienne, and Brienne might be fucking dead.
Like the head of the Lannister army right now. Like
exactly.
Okay.
Like
I said, I don't remember at all. So
I think at River Run, he is like it's been like a chat. He has captured River Run for like one chapter, and then Brienne shows up outside.
And Tyrion's running east.
Tyrion's at the Battle of Meereen, outside in the army of Brown Ben Plum.
So is this going from a Stark story to a Lannister story?
It's. I mean, there's a bunch of Lannister chapters.
Yeah, we definitely start getting Tyrion, Jaime, and Cersei chapters.
I want to mention it now while it's on the tip of my tongue. Kyle mentioned that he thinks Selmy's going to go with Robb.
Yeah, I tried to.
He thinks this is going to be He thinks this is going to be a big Stark story going forward, and it definitely levels out.
Well, getting into that, Jeff. Getting into was what you were going to say before I started talking about the sweet thing. When Tyrion starts nailing down at who did these different things, we kind of start learning there's some kind of obvious motivations behind some of these characters right off the bat.
Yep. So we find out that Janos Slynt was given Harrenhal, was given
by
by Littlefinger.
Not by Littlefinger, but it was his idea.
It was his idea. Yep. So basically,
I led you out, but with the same by. Yeah, obviously that's what I was looking for. Littlefinger, exactly. It was Littlefinger's. He was behind it, and then later, again, there's a lot of theories that Littlefinger really wants.
Selmy's idea was Varys. So Littlefinger wants Harrenhal to become a major family and be blah blah blah. Control people.
Which is weird. So later in the books, he says that he wants to be Lord of Harrenhal. That way, he is a high enough status to marry Lysa. Is how he explains it to the council. That makes
sense. Right. Well, that makes sense too. He just wants more status. Hold status.
On. It makes sense to the council, but that doesn't make sense to us. Does he right now? If Littlefinger went to Lysa, right now, if Littlefinger went to Lysa and was like, "Can we get married?" What prevents that? And what all prevents that?
The people of the Vale being like, "Yo, he's too low."
They've been trying to marry Lysa. They've been trying to marry Lysa for forever, and she just keeps telling no to everyone.
Yeah, but people know until he has that title.
He's already the master of coin.
But that's not really. He's not really a lord yet. He's just. It
really seems like Lysa holds all the chips. I think.
Lysa holds a lot of the chips. But
that is so. What you're saying is the argument, the anti-argument to what I'm saying. What you're saying is the strongest thing that holds water. What I'm saying is, based on how we see the marriage go down later, none of the Vale Lords want her to marry Littlefinger later. So what does it matter if he's the Lord of Harrenhal? None of them want them anyway. And she just says no, I'm in charge, so I do it. So why couldn't he do it now? And I think Littlefinger knows he can do it now. He just wants Harrenhal for alternative reasons.
She wasn't sure. There's probably definitely alternative reasons. I don't think of Littlefinger as a person that puts everything in one basket, but he has obviously put Lysa in the argument, or not in the argument, in the plans a little bit. Not all the way in, but hey, we got to kill your husband. We'll get married one day. The only way we're going to be able to get married is if I become a High Lord. Harrenhal is the seat.
I don't buy that. Not at all.
But that's just what she's thinking. So he gets her on board with everything.
I could see her feeding her that, but I don't understand the point of that either. So
what do you mean? Because she wants to marry him. She's loved him since she was a child. That's the meaning.
I get it, but why would Littlefinger tell her that I need to be a lord before we can be married when he knows it's not true?
Because he's a fucking little shit guy of.
Yeah, he's a little manipulator.
He's a little shit guy with the fingers.
I get it. I understand that, but I'm saying what does he get out of that? Sure, he's manipulating, but why is that beneficial for him?
The Vale. You got people behind you now.
You get the Vale, and then you can get a Harrenhal too, and then lords with that Harrenhal, and then
stop. What I'm saying is, right now, if he wanted to, at the beginning of Game of Thrones, as soon as Jon Arryn's dead, he can go to Lysa and be like, "Let's get married," and nothing prevents that. Do you guys disagree with that?
I do.
My argument is that later on, when he's Lord of Harrenhal and wants to marry her, all of the Lords of the Vale, every single one of them does not want Littlefinger to marry her, and Lysa just overrules them. So why the fuck can't she do that now?
All right, so here's the big thing. This is really the biggest reason, Nelson. I hope you connect with me on this one. Jon Arryn dies in King's Landing. Littlefinger's there in King's Landing. Marries Lysa immediately. Red flag. Okay, that's red flags everywhere.
That's not the point. That's not what I'm saying.
That's a huge point. That's why they couldn't do it.
You're 100% right. You're 100% right. I'm saying say he wants to do it now at this point in the book. It's been a year since Jon Arryn's death, and everyone thinks it's Cersei. Everyone fucking thinks it's Cersei. No one thinks it's Jon Arryn.
Littlefinger, you mean?
He could definitely marry her right now without being Lord of Harrenhal. No fucking shot. There's no difference between now and when he's Lord of Harrenhal.
All right.
So why does he need to be Lord of Harrenhal?
He doesn't. Sansa, probably.
Bargaining chips. He needs chips.
Hold on. I'll tell you. Let me explain a little bit why I'm arguing this hard. And anyone who's a huge major Game of Thrones super fan will probably know this. There's a guy who makes, I've talked about him before, Preston Jacobs. He makes theories that are a little bit far out there, right?
And one you of just those, fucking jerk off to it.
You really do jerk off to Preston Jacobs.
A lot of what he says, there's definitely truth. I think a lot of his theories go a little bit too far, but there's definitely a lot of truth to what he says. So a lot of what he says is that Littlefinger mirrors Rhaegar in terms of Bael the Bard, steal Bael the Bard, Baelish, steal a Lady Stark from Lord Stark. He literally kidnaps Sansa. Rhaegar has a tournament at Harrenhal where he crowns Lady Stark with blue roses. Littlefinger is trying to make Sansa Lord of Harrenhal some way. There's a lot of similarities between Baelish, Stark, this Bael the Bard character. I don't know exactly what it means. Preston Jacob thinks that Littlefinger wants to marry Sansa at Harrenhal because of like lost. Again, Sansa's maternal bloodline is Lawston, Went, at Harrenhal, the crazy lady who used to like bathe in blood. That's like Sansa's grandmother. There's a lot of, we know Sansa's like in this warg family. There's a lot of weird shit going on, right? People refer to Sansa as half wolf, half bat. The Harrenhal sigil is a wolf. There's definitely weird connections with Sansa, Harrenhal, Baelish, Harrenhal. And it seems like Littlefinger knows that at this point in the story, which is weird, right? I don't know what all the connections mean, but there's connections between Sansa, Starks, Littlefinger, Lady Went, Starks, Lady Stark, blah, blah, blah. Baelish, Bael the Bard, Rhaegar. There's like prophecy.
All right, we get it.
Similar themes that all tie that Baelish knows what he's doing.
For sure.
Involves Harrenhal and Sansa at this point in the story, outside of Control of the Veil.
You're not going to get any disagreement from me that Baelish has really thought about his plan.
We just don't know what it is.
But I'm going to say the reason he hasn't left King's Landing to go to the Vale is one, because Sansa is locked down and he knows that Cersei's not going to let her go. So I think we can all agree that his plans don't end with marrying Lysa and becoming...
No way. I mean, he kills Lysa.
So he's going to kill Lysa and then try and marry Sansa. Like, he's just going to keep trying to monopolize pieces to become king. That's his... He's never going to fight a battle. He's never going to fight in the war. He's going to monopolize...
So, like, what do we think about... What do you think about how the show...
I like that. Monopolize. Manipulate and monopolize.
But how do you think about, like, the show stuff affects... Like, how do you think that's going to play out in the books, right? In the show, Baelish shows up with the army of the Vale to save Winterfell.
Maybe...
Does any of that happen at all in the books? Like, is that going to
I hope so. Like, I think the Battle of Bastards would be awesome. Like, I want to read the Battle of the Bastards.
I don't want the Vale to show up.
I'd be cool. I'd be very happy if
either
Stannis
show
beats
up
Ramsay.
before the battle, or
Stannis isn't going to beat Ramsay.
I'd be super pumped if he did.
Stannis is dead in the water.
That's not what it seems like in the books at all. Like people think, most people think Stannis is going to
win to winner, but
most people think Stannis is going to beat Ramsay. That's like where most of the theories are at. Because like there's like just like traitors on the inside, like the Manderleys are for Stannis, and they're both about to come out. People think that what's going to happen is they're going to come out. Stannis is going to win the battle, and then they're just going to dress up in all the Frey armor and just go back to Winterfell and be like, "Yeah, we killed Stannis." Get left in and then kill everyone from within the inside. That's what kind of made the major theories are.
I mean,
which would be fucking badass. But then, like, yeah, there's no Battle of the Bastards. But then what? Then what the fuck happens? We still have Stannis, who's like now in charge of the fucking North in the winter.
If we want to talk about the show versus the book, like Stannis dies fighting Ramsay in the show.
Just like that, though, like it's nothing. There's definitely about to be a big ass major
there's
arc
a lot
of
of
Winter.
shit. There's
like
a lot
major
of
piece
shit.
of Winter is going to be this Battle of the Ice, which is what people call the Ramsay.
I mean, there's a big arc of like Stannis burning his family down to win at all costs. Like he kills his daughter in the show. Like that's crazy. That's one of the biggest moments.
I just wonder how she's gonna die in the fucking book.
Well,
she's at the wall.
Is she? I don't even remember if
she's at the wall.
She's at the wall, but I don't remember if she's at Eastwatch or at Castle Black. They originally left Shireen and
I think she's at Eastwatch now.
They left her at Eastwatch, but I don't. And then Melisandre is gonna find out that Mance's baby isn't actually Mance's baby; it's Gilly's baby, and needed King's blood to burn. That's why people think That's how people think Shireen's gonna die. Is that once Melisandre finds out that Mance's baby isn't Mance's baby, it's Gilly's baby, she's gonna be like, "Well, we need King's blood now."
Shireen's here.
Shireen is there because Val sees Shireen and is like, she is fucking death in living form.
Grayscale, get her out of here.
Val freaks the fuck out about Shireen. Yeah, she's like, kill that girl.
Yeah.
We're totally off track. Let's get back on track.
I mean, but we're kind of on track.
It's good conversation, but let's try and get back to I have no idea how this relates to the Tyrion in this chapter at all.
Because we were talking about how Littlefinger why he wants Harrenhal. That's how we got here. So the next part is Varys getting rid of Selmy because he wants Selmy to go to Dany.
Yeah.
That's as straightforward as we can get.
So there's another quote by Varys that we didn't really, I don't know if you guys caught later in the chapter. We'll jump to it real now. He talks about the comet right before he leaves.
Fire and blood.
Have you seen the comment? Oh, it's a dragon comment. Like, yeah,
The herald for a king.
A king who brings fire and blood. Not a queen. Who's our king who brings...
a game. We're talking about practice.
Who's our king who brings fire and blood? It's not a queen. And Viserys is already dead.
Jon Snow.
Phaegon.
Phaegon. Varys has all his chips on Phaegon. Fire and blood.
Jon Snow.
Targaryen words. That's definitely Targaryen. That's 100% Varys telling Tyrion straight up, like, I have a fucking Targaryen coming to kill you.
Absolutely.
To kill all of us.
Absolutely.
If he would have said ruler, I would have thought he was on Daenerys' team, but he said king, like you said.
Yeah,
King.
but Varys could be wrong.
But we know Varys is on Jon Con and Aegon's side.
Yeah. But and a part of that is Dany. Like, Dany's a part of that too.
I really want Aegon to be Aegon and not a Phaegon. I feel like it'd be really cool.
So Aegon is going to be who? The baby that never got killed. Just refresh me on that. Jon Con took them from Storms or from Dragonstone.
What Varys says is he just swapped out a baby from Flea Bottom with Rhaegar's baby, and then the Mountain killed Rhaegar's daughter and a random boy from Flea Bottom, and Varys took him across the sea. And this boy is actually now Dany. Dany's Dany, but
so Dany's going to marry her nephew.
Young Griff, right? Griff is Jon Con in disguise. Young Griff is this boy who has purple eyes and blue hair because he dyes his hair blue because his mother was from Myr, and in Myr Myr lice, and in Myr lice they had their hair blue.
Yeah.
But like obviously, it's like the whole thing is he's gonna come to Westeros, wash out his hair, and be fucking Aegon.
So if Aegon is really Aegon, Dany is the aunt.
Correct.
Which is Jon Snow in the show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which explains a lot. It explains why they named Jon Snow Aegon, because what Jon Snow does in the show, Aegon does in the book. Kills Dany. I think
Lightbringer to the army of the dead. Aegon becomes the true hero of this story.
I hope Aegon kills Dany. I hope Dany goes crazy. Aegon kills Dany. Aegon takes over King's Landing. Jon Snow is Azor Ahai, almost completely separate story. Kills the Night King, does all that shit, whatever.
But how? How is he gonna be Azor Ahai?
Dane. I don't think Azor Ahai is anything to do with Targaryens. I think Dane is Azor Ahai because that's Lightbringer, Dawn, right? So Jon Snow, Stark,
he's actually Ned's bastard
or Brandon's bastard. Either way, Ashara Dane's kid. I think the mother is more important here. Jon is Ashara Dane's kid. I don't know if I think this. I don't think this is the most likely thing, but I think this would be cool. Jon is Ashara Dane's kid, becomes the Lightbringer character who kills the Night King. Again, there's no Night King, but who leads the battle against the others and wins that shit. And then there's a kind of a separate, different thing with Aegon and Dany. And then, I don't know, maybe whoever wins, Jon and Dany have a conflict before Aegon shows up. Aegon is already here, so it makes more sense that Jon and Aegon would have a conflict, but who knows? Either way, like, I think it makes more sense that way. And it does not make sense. What does not make sense is that in the show, based on all the timelines we know, at the time that Rhaegar and Lyanna would have been choosing a name for their baby, neither one of them would have known that Aegon was already dead. It's like, Jeff, imagine that you get married, have two kids. Name one Todd.
George Foreman. And the second
you name one
George
Todd,
Foreman.
and you name one Beatrice. Name the daughter Beatrice, right?
Okay.
Then somehow something shit happens. You fall in love with Lyanna Stark. And nothing is your other children are totally fine. You fall in love with Lyanna Stark. Lyanna gets pregnant with your child.
Okay.
Why would you name that child Todd? You already have a child named Todd.
Interesting. I didn't know that other kid's name.
Yeah,
well, that's the thing is Aegon. Yeah, the kid who died is named Aegon. So like, why the fuck would Jon's name be the exact same? Especially when you look at the timeline. Right. Neither of them knew that child was dead at the time.
I'm going to tell you, like, I'll just say one thing. It's pretty fucked up what I'm going to say.
Let me explain the point of that. Okay. The point of that is the reason they named Jon Aegon is because what Jon does in season 8 is what Aegon from the books does in season 8.
Sure. I'm not,
because there's a character missing in the show that has to do a lot of stuff in the books.
I'm with you. I don't think you're wrong in that sense of we need to piece the puzzles together. Who is there? Jon's there. So the only reason I would say like maybe there's 2 people named Aegon is because you're like maybe you never actually really loved this girl, the Martell or the Martell.
Yeah.
You never really loved the Martell. You named her son Aegon, but then this is really my love of my life. Oh, it's a son. Like he's gonna be Aegon. This is the real Aegon.
So one of the things that I keep fighting you guys against for the whole Dany thing is that, again, this is kind of different. This is Rhaegar keeps saying 3 heads have the dragon, right? Which is reminiscent of when Aegon conquered the 7 kingdoms. Mm-hmm. Well, when Aegon conquered the 7 kingdoms, it was Aegon and his 2 sisters. So the naming convention you would expect Rhaegar to have would be Aegon and then 2 daughters. Rhaegar's children were Aegon and Rhaenyra.
Okay.
Which are Aegon the Conqueror, and Rhaenyra was his sister wife. Visenya was the 3rd one. So like the naming convention you would expect would be Visenya. So people think that maybe Dany's fake name is Visenya.
Okay.
Like, and Dany
we have nothing ever in the books to say that she has a fake name. So
there's no point that Aegon would name his 3rd child Aegon when he's expecting a 3rd child to be named a daughter when his previous naming conventions for children were following Aegon the Conqueror. He obviously has this thing in prophecies about 3 heads of the dragon. Why you fuck would you go back to
maybe
Aegon?
He was restarting the prophecy.
For sure, maybe, but
Lyanna.
That's just the thing. Go ahead.
Let's move on.
Yeah, we're all over the place.
Tyrion says a quote, and we're going to get right back into this because you've been all over this one too. I am your brother is italicized.
So are we going into the time traveling fetus?
No, I do not want to go into the time traveling fetus. That makes no sense. I don't want to hear Preston Jacobs' name one more fucking time.
That is
it's
not
like putting George Hill
that
on
is
the
not a Preston Jacobs theory.
Don't do it.
That is not a Preston Jacobs theory. Jeff Jacob would hate that theory. Do you know this theory, Jeff?
I don't even want to hear about it. Tell me off screen tonight. Okay. But you've argued a bunch of times that Tyrion has Lannister qualities, and Tyrion's mom might have been with Aerys.
Tyrion's mom might have been Dany, exactly.
What? What the
Shut
fuck
the
did
fuck
you say?
up with the time traveling fetus bullshit.
So Cersei in this conversation with I'm sorry for the viewers, I'm super drunk, but I was that is the time traveling fetus theory though. But so one thing I don't know that theory. One thing I have as a point is Cersei is 100% truthful in this. So even though they're saying sweet all over the place, Glow, Cersei doesn't tell any lies. She tells 100% of the truth about Robert. Even when Jon Arryn is brought up and we think she's lying, and I kind of was misleading Kyle, we know she's telling the truth. She didn't have anything to do with Jon Arryn. That was all Littlefinger. Cersei's 100% honest here. And we've had fans comment this on our shit that we should, instead of just looking out for sweet, anytime there's a meeting where people are drinking Arbor Gold, they're always scheming. There's no,
you said that last time, I think.
And there is no Arbor Gold in this meeting. And Cersei, this is literally the first time Cersei's spitting straight facts.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. I'll keep an eye out.
Straight facts.
What was your next thing, Jeff?
Is Tyrion a half Targaryen? Like, are we going to mention that? You've talked about his one purple eye so much that I've gone sick to my stomach.
Yeah, so...
And he literally mentions, I'm your brother, and it's italicized. Why would I am be italicized? It doesn't make any sense.
It's emphasis on how he's saying it.
No,
I am your brother.
Not. Everything else italicized, we fucking put the magnifying glass to, and
there's a lot. To be fair, there's a lot.
I don't think you should need to look at italicized stuff though.
I mean, I don't think there's.
Well, we do.
I don't disagree with you at all, but
nice.
I don't disagree with you at all.
But that's how we're cutting it off. Is Tyrion a Lannister or is he a Targaryen? Like,
he's both.
Here's the example. Like when they describe his eyes, he has one green eye and one black eye or a dark eye. All right, the eye's so dark it's hard to tell, but like that could just be a really, really, really dark purple. He also has blonde hair that's like so, like almost too blonde. Like it's like bleach. Silver blonde. Exactly, I think is like how they explain it, which is like again gives you Targaryen vibes.
Right.
there's theories that like line up with so
His
like
dragon dreams.
I've definitely said this before, but I think like when Tywin and Joanna, who's Tyrion's mom, got married, Aerys had made a comment at the wedding like, "Oh, I wish the Lord's Knight to the first right was still a thing." I think there's proof that Aerys and Joanna were at the same place at the same time 9 months before Tyrion was born. So, I mean, there's definitely evidence for it. Tywin says, "I can't prove you're not my own child," stuff like that. Basically, we're already covered half of it, so I'm just going to make the leap because I've already mentioned it a few times. The time traveling fetus thing, Jeff, is just that Mir Mazdor, in part of her magic, does a time travel baby swap between the baby that was in Joanna's fetus after Aerys raped her and the baby that was in Dany and Drogo's fetus. So Dany and Drogo's baby got delivered by Joanna, and then they died. And Joanna's baby fucked up dragon fetus from the rape got delivered by Dany, and because Mir Mazdor says it was dead for years. Is part of the evidence behind this. Again, this is a crazy tinfoil theory, but but the baby was dead for years as part of it.
Well, also, why wouldn't Tyrion have some fucking Khal Drogo characteristics? I'm not saying being big and strong. I'm saying dark hair and olive skin.
You're right. It doesn't make sense that he has
That's
one green.
stupid, Nelson. Why'd you bring it up?
I'm just saying that's a theory that people.
I do think it's interesting.
It's
though.
an interesting theory
to
to think about, but like there's very
like
little...
I get you on it a little bit. Like the quote. It's been dead for years. Either like you had a prophecy that it was going to be dead, or like I could chew on that a little bit.
I think that's one of the I think that quote in particular is one of the big things.
I find it very hard to believe that that's where we're going is time traveling.
I don't know how that would ever even come out if that happened.
And we mentioned before is like we haven't heard of Mir Mazdor since she burned to the ground.
I also just thought that because I mentioned it earlier in the spoiler section, I couldn't just leave people without bringing up what it actually was. But that's what it is. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I actually don't really have anything else. All I have is various in the comment and the riddle, but I think we kind of went into the riddle pretty in depth in the thing. I was
trying to name them. Like, is Cersei like the High Septon? Why the High Septon? Like the High Septon doesn't do shit.
The High Sparrow becomes very powerful.
I'm just saying the priest. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was trying to like think of it as like actual people. Like if you said High Sparrow, like I'd be like, okay, like yeah, we know he becomes a big deal.
Well, let's just think in Book 5, the three most powerful people basically are Cersei / Tommen.
Okay.
Right. The Crown.
Tyrell. And the High Sparrow.
Who's Tyrell's the richest?
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of shit happens. A lot of
curveballs
get thrown.
If you're actually looking for like where power resides in terms of those things, the Iron Bank is the one.
I'm thinking of current.
Even current. The Crown has so much debt. The Iron Bank has actually is the rich man. If you're actually looking like super meta, it's Iron Bank.
Hold on. Sure. But hold on. I think it's Littlefinger because he's the one moving coin. So because of how he can move the coin, he's actually the richest because he's playing with Fugazi money.
So I've told you before that like Littlefinger is purposely bankrupt. Like there's a theory that he's purposely bankrupting the Crown. It makes a lot of sense when you think about it, because then all these because we hear that the Iron Bank starts calling in debts all over Westeros. So they start making all these lesser houses start pay back their money. Well, these lesser houses need money because winter's about to come. Where they're going to buy their food from? And we literally hear of in the Vale. Littlefinger is the one that has all this money, is giving it to him. So he's siphoning money from the Crown via taxes like this that we hear about here, and then overpaying jailers and shit like that to like totally siphon money from the actual Crown's incomes. Right. So he's getting richer. The Crown's getting.
That's why I think he's the rich one. I think this is a current riddle.
I mean, I think it's more of a general thematic thing because we don't even get an answer to it. I don't think we ever get an answer to this in the books. I don't think they ever bring this up again.
Sorry.
But I might be wrong. I haven't read Clash in a lot, but I don't think we ever get an answer to this. I think, and I think I already explained it in the non-spoiler section. I think it really says power resides. It's the whole point of it is power resides where men believe it resides, and I think the way they point that out is the first thing that is said afterwards is Shay's like, "Oh, the rich man wins," because whores obviously are all about money.
Where she believes it. Sure. No, I think that statement's a true statement.
But also to what Kyle was saying is like, I think what Kyle was trying to get across was at the end of the day, what matters is who has the most swords on their side. And he was saying the sellsword wins because he can kill everybody. And my argument was, well, then you don't get anything. But he was more thinking of in your situation, like where you're trying to name who is these people. He's thinking Ty wins the sellsword.
Sure, no, I think that's pretty fair. That's 100%. What I'm saying. Like, I don't think Kyle was like completely off base. He wasn't. The sellsword could just kill everybody.
We were thinking about two slightly different like philosophical issues, I guess, if you could say. Like, but yeah, we all had good points on everything talked about.
But still, saying the sellsword wins and kills everyone. That's literally like what I was saying. Marry, fuck, kill someone. And you say, nah, I don't want any of them.
It's like cheating on the riddle. Exactly. It's like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but you could always kill somebody in that riddle.
No, but like in Marry, fuck, kill. If I give
me a Marry, fuck, kill right now.
The 3 Teletubbies.
And you can't. Red's my favorite color.
What Glow's saying is, if you just said no, I don't want to fuck any of them. That's what Kyle was trying to do by saying the sellsword could just kill them all. He was trying to say he was taking like a back door out of the riddle.
But so like I agree. Like I didn't think of it like that at all. Like I would have killed somebody.
The only reason I thought of it like that is because of the show. But like looking back on it, I think that's 100% what it means.
I was thinking Kyle was actually thinking outside the box for once. That's why I was like, oh shit, like that's.
I 100% agree. I think what you guys, the way that you guys saw it was not a bad, like it was definitely worth talking about. It was a good.
To be honest, that's not how I saw it. I was trying to put faces to names. I just
me and Nelson like talked about it over the weekend, so I was like, yeah, it's where they believe power resides.
I just read the chapter today.
All right, let's call it so I can play some Halo before I go to bed.
All right, boys. All right, good sode, everyone. See you on the next sode for Brand 1.
Bye.
The night is dark and full of terrors.